My sister stole my wedding dress to marry my ex-husband. But what happened next was unbelievable. Betrayal has a taste. It's bitter, metallic, something that coats your tongue and lingers no matter how many times you try to swallow it down. It burns through your chest, settling like acid in the pit of your stomach, twisting and tightening until you can't breathe. I had thought I was past the worst of it. I had thought that, after surviving the heartbreak of my divorce, after clawing my way out of the wreckage that was my failed marriage, nothing could shake me anymore. I had stitched myself back together with quiet resilience, swallowed my pain, and convinced myself that life would eventually balance the scales. That karma, in all its cosmic fairness, would handle the people who had wronged me. But standing in my mother's living room, staring at the invitation clenched between my trembling fingers, I realized just how wrong I had been. You are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Emily Carter and James Reynolds. The words blurred as my vision swam with rage. Emily Carter, my sister, James Reynolds, my ex-husband. The audacity, the sheer unfathomable gall of it, was enough to send my pulse into a dangerous rhythm. It wasn't just that she was marrying him, the man who had once vowed to love me forever before discarding me like yesterday's trash. No, that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the dress. My wedding dress. The one I had picked out with trembling hands and hopeful eyes. The one I had stood in front of the mirror wearing, imagining the perfect future that had never come to pass. The dress that had been carefully preserved, tucked away in my mother's attic like some relic of a dream I had been forced to bury. She had stolen it. She hadn't asked. She hadn't even mentioned it. She had simply taken it as if it had never belonged to me at all. And now she was going to wear it down the aisle, my aisle, to marry the man who had once stood at the altar waiting for me. My hands clenched into fists, the paper crumpling beneath my grip. A sharp, derisive laugh slipped past my lips, bitter and hollow. Oh, they wanted me to be happy for them? To show up, smile politely, and pretend that this wasn't the ultimate insult? They had no idea who they were dealing with. I wasn't the same woman James had walked away from. I wasn't the naive, trusting fool Emily had always manipulated. No, that woman was gone. And what was left in her place? Something sharper, something unforgiving, something dangerous. I spent the next few days gathering every piece of ammunition I could find, because if they thought I was going to suffer in silence, they were about to be tragically disappointed. First, I dug into Emily's past, not just the parts I already knew, but the things she thought she had buried deep enough to never resurface. The unpaid debts, the sketchy business ventures, the ex-friends who still had plenty to say about her habit of scamming people out of money before ghosting them entirely. Then I turned my attention to James. The thing about men like my ex-husband? They always left behind a mess. And James, for all his charm, had never been careful enough to cover his tracks. It didn't take long to find exactly what I was looking for. Credit card statements that led to hotel rooms under fake names. Receipts for gifts that had never been meant for Emily, or for me for that matter. Messages that made it abundantly clear that while he was planning his wedding, he was also enjoying the company of multiple women. I sat back, my fingers drumming against the desk, my lips curling into a slow, satisfied smirk. Perfect. The wedding was set to take place at a lavish venue just outside the city, a grand ballroom filled with pristine white flowers, shimmering chandeliers, and guests who had no idea the kind of spectacle they were about to witness. I made sure to arrive fashionably late, slipping through the doors just as the ceremony was about to begin. The moment I stepped inside, a hush fell over the crowd. Heads turned, murmurs rippled through the guests, and at the front of the room, standing in my stolen dress, Emily's face drained of color. She looked beautiful, I'll admit that. But beauty meant nothing when it was draped in theft and betrayal. James, standing beside her, went rigid, his jaw clenched, his fingers twitching at his sides. Oh, he knew. He knew why I was here. I walked slowly down the aisle, each step deliberate, the heels of my shoes clicking against the polished marble floor. The tension in the room was thick enough to suffocate, the guests watching with wide eyes, unsure whether they were about to witness a wedding or a funeral. I stopped a few feet from the altar, tilting my head slightly as I looked at my sister. "Lovely dress," I said, my voice dripping with amusement. Where did you get it? Emily swallowed hard, her fingers tightening around the bouquet in her hands. You shouldn't be here, she hissed under her breath. I smirked. Oh, but how could I miss such a special occasion? After all, it's not every day that your sister marries your ex-husband in your wedding dress. A gasp rippled through the crowd. My mother, sitting in the front row, went pale, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. My father's expression was unreadable, his jaw clenched, his gaze flickering between me and Emily. James had the audacity to look annoyed. Look, I don't know what you're trying to... I held up a hand, cutting him off. Oh, don't worry, James. I didn't come here to stop the wedding. My gaze flicked to Emily, a slow smile spreading across my lips. I came to celebrate it. Her eyes narrowed. What the hell does that mean? I took a step closer, lowering my voice just enough that only the two of them could hear. It means I hope you enjoy the disaster you just walked into. Then, without another word, I turned and walked over to the projector screen that had been set up for their wedding montage, and pressed play. The room filled with gasps, shocked whispers, and then absolute chaos. Because there, in front of everyone, played a video montage of James's not-so-private affairs. Screenshots of texts, photos from hotel security cameras, credit card receipts for expensive gifts sent to women who were not my sister. Emily let out a strangled noise, her face contorting with horror. What? What is this? James turned, his face twisted in fury. You did this, he snarled at me. I shrugged. Actually, you did this. I just made sure everyone saw it. The wedding was officially over, and as Emily turned on James, screaming accusations, and guests hurried to grab their phones, recording the mess unraveling before them, I took one last look at my sister, the woman who had stolen my dress, my ex, and my dignity. And then I walked out. The moment I stepped out of the wedding venue, a rush of crisp evening air hit me, cleansing away the last remnants of the toxic whirlwind I had left behind. The chaos inside was still unfolding. I could hear the muffled shouting, the gasps, the panicked murmurs of guests trying to process the nuclear bomb I had just detonated in the middle of their picture-perfect ceremony. I had done what I came to do, but I wasn't done. Not yet. Emily had stolen more than just my wedding dress. She had taken my dignity, my trust, and any illusion I had left that my family would ever truly have my back. And James? Well, James had already proven time and time again that he was nothing more than a liar wrapped in expensive cologne. They thought they could take from me and walk away unscathed. Now they were going to learn what happened when you crossed the wrong woman. I didn't go straight home. Instead, I found myself in the quiet corner of a high-rise lounge downtown, sipping on an old-fashioned, my mind turning over everything that had just transpired. The flickering candlelight reflected off the deep amber liquid, casting warm, golden hues across my fingers as I swirled the glass absent-mindedly. I should have been satisfied. Most people would have been satisfied. But the thing about betrayal, it seeps into your bones. It changes you. Humiliating Emily at her wedding was justice, yes. But I had spent too many years cleaning up after other people's messes, being the one who always took the high road while everyone else walked all over me. This wasn't just about one night. This wasn't about some dramatic, cinematic mic drop moment. No, I wanted them to suffer. Not just in front of their wedding guests, but in the days, the years to come. I wanted my name to be the ghost that haunted them. I wanted the sting of my revenge to last long after the flowers had wilted, and the wedding photos had been burned in shame, and I knew exactly how to make that happen. By the time I reached my apartment, I had a plan. I slid off my heels, tossing my coat onto the couch, and went straight for my laptop. My fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, pulling up files, accounts, emails, every digital breadcrumb I had ever collected over the years. Emily had always been reckless, sloppy. She had a history of manipulating people, using charm and crocodile tears to get what she wanted, but she had never been careful enough to cover her tracks. And James? Well, James was the epitome of a man who thought he was too smart to get caught. I clicked through my saved documents, smiling as I found exactly what I was looking for. A trail of financial transactions that screamed fraud. Credit card charges under fake business names. Money funneling into accounts that shouldn't exist. Deals made under the table. ones that neither James nor Emily would ever want coming to light. This wasn't just gossip. This wasn't just cheating. This was career-ending, reputation-shattering, possibly even criminal. I leaned back in my chair, tapping my nails against the desk. Now, the real fun could begin. I started small. A carefully worded email to the CEO of the real estate firm James worked for, attaching a few very interesting financial statements that strongly suggested embezzlement. I didn't even need to write much. Just let the numbers speak for themselves. Then, I turned my attention to Emily. She had spent the past few years building up an image of herself as a rising socialite, someone who attended charity galas, posted perfectly curated Instagram photos of herself sipping champagne at luxury events. She was in deep with the right people, the kind of people who valued exclusivity, power, and discretion, and nothing destroyed a socialite faster than a scandal. I compiled a neat little package, screenshots of her conversations with ex-boyfriends detailing how she used men for money, an audio clip from one of our past family gatherings where she had bragged about scamming an investor out of thousands, and a particularly damning invoice that proved she had been charging event vendors exorbitant under-the-table fees just for the privilege of working with her. All of it went to the one place where rumors turned into headlines, a well-known gossip columnist who thrived on the destruction of the elite. I hit send. Then, I waited. The fallout began within 24 hours. The morning after the wedding that wasn't, my phone lit up with messages from mutual friends, acquaintances, and, most satisfyingly, family members who had suddenly changed their tune. Mom, what did you do? Emily is hysterical. Dad, this is out of control. Fix it. Aunt Caroline, sweetheart, I know things got messy, but this is too far. Maybe we should talk. I ignored them all. Instead, I scrolled through the news feed, smirking as I saw the headlines flooding in. Exclusive. Socialite Emily Carter, caught in financial scandal. Luxury life funded by fraud. Real estate fraud. High-profile investor James Reynolds, under investigation for suspicious transactions. The comments were brutal. People were ripping them apart. Emily's carefully crafted image was imploding, her reputation crumbling beneath the weight of her own deception. Meanwhile, James was facing serious legal scrutiny. His employer had already released a statement distancing themselves from him, and there were whispers that authorities were looking into his financial dealings. It was perfect. And the best part? I wasn't done yet. That evening, just as I was pouring myself a well-earned glass of juice, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Emily. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then just as it was about to go to voicemail, I answered. The sound of ragged breathing filled the line before she finally spoke, her voice a mix of fury and desperation. You ruined my life. I smiled. Oh, sweetie, you ruined your own life. I just made sure everyone saw it. Her breath hitched. I could practically hear her seething, scrambling for something, anything, to say that could undo the damage. You need to fix this, she demanded. I know you did this. If you don't clear this up, You'll what? I interrupted, my tone smooth, controlled. Steal from me again? Lie? Betray me? You already did all that, and look where it got you. She fell silent. She had nothing to say. I leaned back, savoring the moment. You took everything from me, I said quietly, my voice laced with steel. You thought I'd just take it, that I'd let you walk all over me, humiliate me, erase me from my own story. But you forgot one thing, Emily. A pause. Then, I delivered the final blow. I always win in the end. And with that, I hung up. This time, for good. The days that followed were nothing short of delicious. James lost his job. The company announced a full audit, and from what I heard through the grapevine, he was on the verge of legal action. Emily, meanwhile, had become a social pariah. The invitations to high-profile events? Revoked. The sponsors backing her brand? Gone. The friends she had once bragged about? Silent. They had built their lives on lies, deceit, and stolen trust. Now they had nothing. And me? I had everything. My dignity, my peace, my power. I didn't just move on, I thrived. And as I walked away from the wreckage they had created, I did it with my head held high. Because I wasn't the one left picking up the pieces. The best part of revenge isn't the moment you strike. It's the aftermath. It's the slow unraveling, the panic, The realization that everything they built, every lie, every manipulation, every stolen moment of happiness, was nothing more than a fragile house of cards collapsing beneath its own weight. It had been 3 weeks since I set the fire and walked away, and now I was watching the embers smolder from a safe distance. Emily was done, James was finished, and me, I was just getting started. The fallout had been spectacular. James, once a rising name in the real estate investment world, had been publicly dismantled. His firm had cut ties with him after the financial discrepancies I had leaked led to a full-blown investigation. His bank accounts had been frozen. His assets were under scrutiny, and whispers of potential legal charges were circling like vultures over a dying animal. But it was Emily's downfall that I savored the most. Social circles, especially ones built on wealth and status, were fickle things. The moment someone became more liability than asset, they were exiled. And that was exactly what had happened to my dear sister. Her so-called friends had abandoned her. The brands she had spent years clawing her way into had cut her off. Her entire social identity, the carefully curated life of privilege and power she had stolen, manipulated, and cheated her way into, was now a wasteland. She had tried to do damage control, of course. She had gone on social media, posting teary-eyed videos insisting she had been set up, that people were just jealous of her success, that everything was a misunderstanding. But the internet had no mercy. Her past came back to bite her in ways she hadn't expected. Former friends came out of the woodwork, sharing stories of how she had scammed them, used them, thrown them under the bus the moment they were no longer useful to her. The avalanche was unstoppable. And the best part? Neither of them had any idea just how much more I had planned. I sat in my apartment, sipping a glass of wine as I scrolled through the latest news updates. James Reynolds under investigation. Former business partners speak out. Scandal rocks social scene. Emily Carter's fraudulent dealings exposed. I took a slow, satisfied sip. Good, but I wasn't done. There was still one more loose end to tie up. My family had been remarkably quiet through all of this. At first, I thought they were embarrassed, ashamed, maybe even a small feeling of guilt for the way they had treated me. But I should have known better. I should have known that people like them didn't change. The call came just as I was about to turn in for the night. I stared at the screen. Mom? A slow smirk curled at the edges of my lips. So they finally decided to acknowledge me. I let the phone ring twice before answering, keeping my voice casual. Hello? There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by a deep, weary sigh. We need to talk. I leaned back against my pillows. Oh? About what? My mother hesitated. You know what? Your sister she's not doing well. And James... I let out a soft hum, feigning curiosity. James? You mean the lying, cheating, soon-to-be indicted James? That James? A pause. Then irritation seeped into her tone. You don't have to be so petty. I laughed. Oh, I absolutely do. She sighed again. Your sister is family, and she's suffering right now. You've made your point, but this has gone too far. I raised an eyebrow. Too far? They hadn't thought it was too far when Emily stole my dress, or my ex-husband, or when they had told me to just get over it, like I was being unreasonable for not cheering on my own betrayal. But now that the consequences had arrived, now it was too far. Classic. I stayed silent, letting her squirm in the silence. Finally, she caved. She needs help, my mother admitted. She lost everything. Her credit's ruined. No one will hire her. A deep breath. She has nowhere to go. I tilted my head, feigning concern. Oh no, I said, voice dripping with mock sympathy. That sounds terrible. A sharp inhale. This isn't funny. I set my juice glass down, propping my elbow on my knee. Tell me something, I said smoothly. Where was this concern when I was left with nothing? That was different. I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. Was it? Or was it just convenient to ignore my pain because it didn't affect you? More silence. I had her. She knew I had her. I exhaled slowly. Let me make something very clear, I said, my voice dropping into something sharp, dangerous. I owe Emily nothing. I owe all of you nothing. You made your choice when you sided with her. You made your bed. Now lie in it. She's your sister, my mother said weakly. And that used to mean something, I replied, before she destroyed any reason I had to care. A tense, suffocating silence stretched between us. Then finally, she spoke. You really won't help her, I smiled. Not even if my life depended on it. And with that, I ended the call. I thought that would be the end of it. But then, 3 days later, I woke up to a knock on my door. I groggily pulled on a robe, making my way to the entrance, expecting a package delivery or maybe my neighbor needing something. What I wasn't expecting? Emily, standing on my doorstep. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hair a mess, her once pristine designer clothes replaced by something cheap, something she had never worn a day in her life. She looked hollow, desperate. She looked powerless. I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. Well, look what the cat dragged in. She swallowed hard, her lips parting, but no words came out. I tilted my head. You came all this way. Say what you need to say. Her hands trembled. She exhaled shakily, closing her eyes for a moment before finally whispering, I have nothing left. I stared at her. For a fleeting second, the part of me that had once loved her, the little girl who had idolized her big sister, felt a pang of something. But then I remembered. I remembered every cruel word, every stolen moment, every betrayal, and I smiled. Good. Her eyes snapped to mine, wide with shock. What? I leaned in slightly, my voice a whisper of steel. Now you finally know what it feels like. A strangled noise left her throat, and then, before she could say another word, I closed the door in her face. The moment I shut the door in Emily's face, I felt something inside me settle. Not relief, not satisfaction. Closure. For so long I had been trapped in a cycle of betrayal and pain, of giving and being stripped bare in return. I had spent years convincing myself that if I was good enough, forgiving enough, if I swallowed my pride and kept the peace, maybe, just maybe, they would finally treat me with the love and respect I had always deserved. But that version of me was gone. The woman who had once waited for apologies, who had hoped for remorse, who had begged, even silently, to be seen, to be valued, to be chosen. She didn't exist anymore, and it was about damn time. Emily didn't knock again. She stood there for a moment, long enough for the weight of her new reality to sink in. Then slowly she turned and walked away, her shoulders hunched under the weight of her own decisions. I watched through the peephole, not because I cared, but because I wanted to remember this moment, the moment I was the one who walked away. For once, she was the one left behind. And I was free. Over the next few weeks, the dust settled. The media frenzy around Emily and James died down, but the damage had already been done. James officially lost his real estate license. The company that had once boasted about his genius investment strategies publicly denounced him, and the financial investigation into his fraudulent dealings wasn't just a rumor anymore. It was a reality. Emily, meanwhile, had been wiped clean from the social scene. No one wanted to be associated with her. No invitations, no luxury events, no high-profile business deals. The people who had once fawned over her, used her for their own clout, whispered behind their manicured hands about how perfect she was. They had vanished, because people like that only loved you when you were useful. And Emily? She was useless now. Even my parents, who had always chosen her over me, had finally started to see the cracks. I had ignored most of my mother's calls since that night. But when I finally picked up, out of sheer boredom, really, I wasn't expecting what she said. Your father and I had to take out a second mortgage, she muttered, her voice heavy. I blinked. That sounds like a you problem. She sighed, exasperated. This isn't funny. Emily is struggling. She's broke. And after everything that's happened, no one is willing to help her. I tilted my head, suppressing a smirk. Good. Her breath hitched. How can you be so cold? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. How could you? Silence. Because she knew. She knew exactly what I meant. I let out a slow breath. I spent years breaking myself apart for this family. I gave and gave and gave. And what did I get in return? She didn't answer. Because there was no answer. Because deep down, she knew I was right. You all chose her. I continued, my voice steady, unwavering, over and over again, even when she lied, even when she stole from me, even when she took everything that was supposed to be mine. A sharp inhale. We just wanted to keep the peace. I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. No, you wanted to keep her happy. Another pause, then barely above a whisper. We didn't think she would do this. I sighed, shaking my head. And that's your problem. You never thought there'd be consequences. A long, heavy silence stretched between us. Then finally she spoke again, her voice quiet. She's moving back home. I raised an eyebrow. What? Is she too good for the gutter? Enough, my mother snapped, irritation slipping into her tone. I know you're angry, but she's still your sister. Can't you just... I cut her off. Just what? Forgive her? I scoffed. She didn't just steal a dress, Mom. She stole my life. She took everything she could from me and laughed while doing it. A deep breath on the other end. She was your sister. I shook my head, my voice softer this time, but no less final. She was. Then, before she could say another word, I ended the call. Months passed. I went back to school. I got a promotion at work. I started therapy. Worked through everything. The resentment, the pain, the years of self-sacrifice that had drained me of my own identity. And most importantly, I started living for myself. No more family obligations. No more tiptoeing around Emily's ego. No more making myself small so other people could shine. I was done shrinking. The last time I saw Emily, it was by accident. I had been walking down the street, coffee in hand, when I spotted her across the road. She looked different. Not in the way I had hoped. She wasn't completely destitute, nor was she begging on a street corner. But she wasn't Emily anymore. Her clothes, once designer and meticulously tailored, were plain. Her hair, usually sleek and styled, was pulled back into a messy ponytail. There were dark circles under her eyes, shadows of a life that had fallen apart. And for a brief second, our eyes met. I saw something in her gaze I had never seen before. Regret, shame, loss. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, maybe to call out, to beg, to apologize. But I didn't give her the chance. I simply turned and walked away. Because Emily was nothing more than a ghost to me now. A distant memory of a girl I had once trusted, once loved. But now I wasn't haunted by her anymore. And as I disappeared into the crowd, into my own life. My sister stole my life savings. Now she's furious I refused to bail her out of debt. There's a particular kind of rage that comes when someone takes something from you. Not just money, not just opportunity, but something far more irreplaceable. Time, effort, sacrifice. I spent years saving that money. Years. While my friends went on vacations, bought new clothes, splurged on nights out, I tightened my grip on every dollar. I skipped luxuries, worked extra shifts, lived below my means, not because I was cheap, but because I had a plan. That money was supposed to be my ticket out, my escape from struggling, my chance to build something that was mine. But then, my sister took it all. At first I thought it was a mistake, a banking error, a glitch in the system. But no, it was her. She drained my savings account, every last cent, without hesitation. And when I confronted her, she laughed. I still remember the way she shrugged, as if I had accused her of something as trivial as eating the last slice of pizza instead of stealing my entire future. She leaned back in her chair, twirling a piece of her perfectly styled hair between her fingers, and smirked like the whole thing was some kind of joke. Oh my God, you're being so dramatic. It's just money. Just money. I saw red. Just money. The money I worked myself to the bone for. The money that meant security, that meant a better life, that meant I wouldn't have to struggle the way we always had growing up. She spent it. All of it. And for what? Not for rent. Not for bills. Not for survival. For trips. Designer bags. Nights out in expensive clubs where she could pretend, for a few fleeting hours, that she was someone important. And the worst part, she didn't even care. I'll pay you back, she had said, waving a dismissive hand, as if I were annoying her with my silly little concerns. Just relax, okay? But she never paid me back. She never even tried. Months passed, then a year, then 2. And every time I brought it up, she had a new excuse, a new reason why it wasn't a big deal, a new way to spin it so that I was the unreasonable one, the cruel one, the bad sibling for even bringing it up. And eventually, I stopped asking, because I knew she was never going to pay me back. It had been 3 years since she stole my savings. 3 years since she ripped away everything I had worked for and acted like it was her right to do so. I had rebuilt, slowly but surely, every dollar earned back through grit and relentless effort. I had learned my lesson, never trust her again. But then, one evening, I got a call. I nearly didn't pick up. I should have let it go to voicemail, but some morbid curiosity made me answer. "Hey," she drawled, her voice coated in forced cheerfulness. "How's my favorite sibling?" I didn't respond. She sighed dramatically. "Okay, fine, straight to business. I need a little favor." I knew it. Of course she needed something, because that was how she operated. The moment she needed to dig herself out of a hole, suddenly I was her favorite person in the world. I leaned back in my chair, my grip tightening around my phone. "What kind of favor?" There was a pause, a hesitation. Then she sighed, shifting into her pity-me voice. "Look, I'm in a bit of a financial bind right now," she admitted, trying to sound casual, as if we were discussing the weather instead of her latest disaster. "And I just need a little bit of help, just for a bit, just to get me through this rough patch." I almost laughed. A rough patch? Wasn't that what she put me through when she stole my life savings? I tilted my head, keeping my voice cool. "How much?" She hesitated again. 50,000. I choked out a bitter laugh. 50,000? "Yeah," she said quickly. "But just as a loan. I swear, I'll pay you back this time." This time. The audacity. The sheer breathtaking audacity of her to ask me for more money. After everything. I exhaled sharply, my patience hanging by a thread. "Why do you even need that much?" There was another long pause. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't catch it, she muttered, "I owe some people." I stilled. "What people?" She exhaled loudly, frustration leaking into her tone. "Does it even matter? Just, look, I made some bad investments, okay? But I can fix this, I just need a little help." Bad investments. I didn't believe her. Not for a second. And I wasn't going to play this game. I let the silence stretch between us, heavy and suffocating. Then, slowly, deliberately, I said, "No," she scoffed. "Wait, what?" I said no, I repeated, savoring the word. Her voice immediately sharpened. "Oh, come on. You're seriously going to be this petty?" "Petty?" I echoed, my voice eerily calm. "You stole my entire life savings and never paid me back. And now you're demanding more? That's not petty. That's self-respect." "You're unbelievable," she snapped. "You have the money. What is your problem?" "My problem," I said evenly, "is that you've never faced a single consequence in your life. And I think it's about time you did." She exploded. I could hear her pacing on the other end of the line, her breath sharp and uneven. "You are such a bitter, selfish little... I cannot believe you're actually going to let me suffer like this. I'm your sister." "And?" I asked, genuinely curious. "And family is supposed to help each other," she spat. I sighed. "Funny. That's what I thought too. Until you stole from me." She made a noise of frustration, somewhere between a growl and a scream. "I swear, you're acting like I murdered someone. It was just money." And that was the moment I knew. She would never change. She would never apologize. She would never take accountability. She would never see herself as the villain, only the victim. And I was done. Completely, irrevocably done. I exhaled, my voice devoid of emotion. "Figure it out yourself." And then, before she could spew more venom, I hung up. Hanging up on my sister should have felt like a victory. It should have filled me with the satisfaction of knowing I had finally done what I should have done years ago. Cut her off, shut her down, refused to play her game. But people like her. They don't just accept defeat. They don't walk away when they don't get their way. They double down, they scheme, they claw at whatever weak points they think they can exploit. And within 24 hours, she proved me right. The next morning, my phone lit up like a crime scene. Missed calls, unread messages, notifications from every direction. My sister, my mother, my aunt, even a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. And I knew, before I even read a single word, she had activated the family attack dogs. I sighed, rubbing the bridge of my nose before finally scrolling through the messages. "Mom, your sister is in a crisis and you're just going to turn your back on her? Mom again. I didn't raise you to be this cold-hearted. What is wrong with you? Aunt Linda. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Your sister has always had your back and now you're just abandoning her? Cousin Tasha. Wow. I knew you were selfish, but this is a new low. The pure audacity nearly made me laugh. I could already see it. My sister putting on her best tearful, trembling performance, painting herself as the poor, struggling victim while I was cast as the heartless villain. I could imagine the fake sniffles, the exaggerated sighs, the pitiful glances toward the floor as she spun her sob story. How she had twisted reality into something that suited her. How she had erased the part where she robbed me blind and replaced it with some tragic fairy tale where I was the cruel, heartless sibling who refused to help in a time of need. I exhaled, dragging a hand down my face. It was exhausting, the way these people never changed. I didn't respond to any of them. Not yet. I needed to see how far my sister was willing to go before I decided my next move. And it turned out, she wasn't just looking for sympathy. She was looking for revenge. By the time Sunday dinner rolled around, a standing obligation I had been too foolish to cancel, I knew I was walking into an execution chamber. I should have skipped it. I should have blocked every number, gone about my day as if they didn't exist. But a part of me, a part still bitter, still seeking some kind of final reckoning, needed to see them try. So I went, and the moment I stepped into my mother's house, I knew I had made the right decision, because they weren't subtle about it. The moment I walked in, the conversation halted, like a scene in a bad western where the outlaw steps into a saloon and the piano player stops playing. Eyes turned to me, expressions already set in stone. Accusation, judgment, disgust. And sitting right in the middle of it all like a queen on her throne was my sister. Her makeup was smudged just enough to suggest she had been crying, but not enough to actually ruin her look. Her expression was wounded, but in a way that was carefully controlled, curated, designed to make her look fragile, tragic, the suffering saint. She looked at me like I had stabbed her in the back, rather than simply telling her no. My mother was the first to speak. I hope you're happy. I exhaled through my nose, shrugging off my jacket. I actually am. Thanks for asking. She ignored that. Your sister came to you in her darkest hour, and you turned her away. How could you do that to her? I tilted my head, taking a slow, measured step forward. You mean the same sister who stole my life savings and never paid me back? That sister? A ripple of discomfort moved through the room. But my mother? She didn't even blink. Oh, for God's sake, she snapped. Are you still on about that? I let out a short, humorless laugh. Are you seriously asking me that? It was years ago, she snapped. Why can't you just let it go? Because it wasn't just about the money. It was about the principle. It was about the absolute lack of remorse. The audacity of taking something so important to me and never once apologizing for it. The fact that, in her mind, it had never even been a betrayal at all, just another thing she was entitled to. I inhaled deeply, my grip tightening at my sides. Let me ask you something, Mom. If I had stolen tens of thousands of dollars from you, would you have let it go? She didn't answer, because she knew. But before I could push further, my sister sniffled theatrically, leaning forward as if she was about to collapse from emotional agony. I don't understand how you could hate me so much, she whispered. I made a mistake, okay? A mistake. And now, when I need you the most, you're turning your back on me? She was good, I'd give her that. The perfectly measured voice crack, the glassiness in her eyes, the way she played the victim so effortlessly. If I hadn't known any better, I might have actually believed her. But I did know better, and I was done playing along. You didn't make a mistake, I said, my voice low, even, sharp as a blade. You made a choice to steal from me, a choice to never make it right. And now, you're making another choice, the choice to act like I owe you something. I took a slow step forward, watching as her mask faltered, just for a second. But let me make something very, very clear to you, I continued, my voice never wavering. I don't owe you a damn thing. The tension in the room was suffocating. My mother looked like she was about to burst a blood vessel. My aunt was staring at me like I had just confessed to murder. And my sister? She looked like she didn't know what to say. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. You want help? Go to a bank. Go get a loan. Get a job that actually pays your bills instead of trying to live like a Kardashian on a barista's salary. But don't you dare come to me acting like I'm the bad guy because I finally decided to stop being your personal ATM. I turned, grabbing my jacket from the chair. This conversation is over, I said, already making my way toward the door. Don't call me. Don't text me. And don't ever think for a second that I will ever be stupid enough to let you back into my life. And with that, I walked out. The drive home was silent, save for the low hum of my engine cutting through the night air. My hands clenched the wheel, not out of anger, no, that had burned out long ago, but out of something heavier, something final. I had known, the moment I walked into that house, that this was how it would go, that my family would stand behind my sister, circling the wagons around her like they always did, that they would ignore every truth, every fact, every ounce of logic in favor of their chosen narrative, where I was the selfish one, and she was the helpless victim. It wasn't about right or wrong. It was never about fairness. It was about control. And tonight, I had taken that control away from them. That should have been the end of it. But people like my sister don't know how to let go. The next morning, I woke to a barrage of missed calls and texts. Mom, 5:47 a.m. Your sister is in serious trouble. Mom, 6:01 a.m. You can still fix this. Please. Mom, 6:30 a.m. The cops might be involved. Do you really want that for her? I stared at my screen for a long moment before slowly sitting up. The cops? My fingers tightened around my phone as I scrolled further. Aunt Linda, 6:45 a.m. She's made some mistakes, but jail? That's too far, don't you think? Cousin Tasha, 6:50 a.m. You're really just gonna let this happen? Wow. A cold feeling slithered up my spine. I had told myself I was done, that I was never going to let her drag me into her mess again. But this was different. This wasn't just another sob story, another plea for money. This was something worse. I exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand down my face before pulling up my sister's contact and pressing call. She picked up on the first ring, and the moment she spoke, I knew. She wasn't just in trouble. She was terrified. Okay, please don't hang up. She rushed out, her voice shaking. I know you're pissed at me. I know I don't deserve your help, but I didn't know what else to do. I closed my eyes, inhaling deeply. What happened? A beat of silence, then a choked breath. I owe money, she whispered. To the wrong people. A sharp prickle of awareness ran down my spine. How wrong? I asked carefully. She sniffled. You don't want to know. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Of course. This wasn't some minor credit card debt or overdue rent. This wasn't even the kind of mistake that a bank could solve. This was bad. And the worst part? It wasn't my problem. I could feel the weight of expectation in her silence, the unspoken plea buried beneath her trembling breaths. She wanted me to save her, just like I had saved her before, just like I had always been expected to. I let out a slow breath, staring out the window at the morning sun rising over the city. No, I said, my voice calm. A sharp inhale on the other end. What? I said no, I repeated, feeling something in my chest finally snap free. You don't get it, she said desperately. These people, they don't just go away. If I don't come up with the money, they're gonna... Then run, I cut in. She choked on a breath. What? Run, I said simply. Pack your things, get in a car, go somewhere they can't find you, because I'm not giving you a cent. Her breathing was ragged now. You'd really let me get hurt over this? I closed my eyes. I didn't put you in this situation, and I am not pulling you out of it. She was silent, and then her voice dropped to something ugly, venomous. You're a monster. I exhaled, letting the words settle over me. Maybe. She let out a sharp, hateful laugh. I hope you know that when I end up dead in a ditch somewhere, it's going to be on you. And with that, she hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, waiting for the guilt to come, for the crushing weight of responsibility, for the urge to fix it, to make it go away, to play the role I had been forced into my entire life. But it never came. Because I finally understood something. Saving her wouldn't save her. If I bailed her out this time, there would always be a next time. Another crisis, another debt, another disaster of her own making. She would never learn, because she never had to, because there had always been someone, me, willing to shield her from the consequences of her own self-destruction. And I was done. I wasn't the villain in this story. I wasn't the hero either. I was just someone who had finally realized that some people can't be saved, and some debts aren't yours to pay. 3 days later, I got another call. Not from my sister. From Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then another, and another. Until finally, curiosity got the better of me. I hit play. Mom voicemail, 8:12 a.m. She's gone. I stilled. She packed up last night and left. No one knows where she went. She didn't even tell me. Just vanished. I hope you're happy. There was a pause. Then softer. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you for this. I exhaled, feeling something deep inside me settle. They wanted someone to blame. And if that meant casting me as the villain, then so be it. But I wouldn't regret this.